start off by opening up the box to see what's in here. So you get a little QR code with this. We'll scan that in a second, see what comes up. You've got orange and green. I suppose it's DC, so it doesn't matter which way. But yeah, we'll see how that's wired up. You've got these little connector things that are getting chopped. As they did not supply the female end. Pretty happy they included the street wrap actually, because I actually bought some just for this installation, so that's cool. So yeah, we'll be melting that down. Get yourself a little, these are LEDs, I think, at least I advertise as LEDs. So we'll check that out in a second, but yeah, so yeah, these will be going here. So let's see how that goes. Now, these costed about 12 bucks Australian, delivered to my house. So hopefully a good quality part. This is the problem of why we're changing over the indicators. So I had a little bit of a drop. If I zoom in there, you'll see that there's a bit of damage on the right hand side. So I had a bit of a drop. And it may have been the drop that was featured in one of my other videos, but I had a couple of drops. So I've got the rear indicators working, which shows me the switch is working. I've changed over the bulbs. I checked for voltage in the socket. No voltage in the socket, voltage in the socket on this side. I haven't cut into this to make sure that electricity is getting to here yet, but I'm hoping that the problem isn't further back, so we're going to find out right now. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to check the continuity. So this is a cool little device. You don't need an expensive one like this. I had this when I was still working as an electrician, or apprentice electrician. Got to third year, couldn't hack it. Working disability now. But yeah, what we're going to do is just check that we're going to get a... So when you complete a circuit, it'll make a beep sound. And it'll also tell you the resistance. So we got 2.3 ohms, which is cool. So that light should work. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go to the broken side first. Just again in case it doesn't fix the problem. So we're going to double check that it's the left side that's not working. Okay, so left side is not working. Take the key out to make sure it's isolated. I'm just going to cut it there. I'm just going to cut into... See what I can make it. I really don't like these. It's really hard for myself and I have to do. Okay. So what we're going to do now is make sure that these are separate. So that should read as an open line. And then we're going to check two things here. I'm just going to check this. Let's go straight to voltage. Not reading any voltage there, which is not good. Okay. Sure these did work, which they do, which is cool. So let's figure out what the issue is. Alright guys, this is where it pays to take stuff apart first before you buy stuff, which is not what I did this time. So this active wire here, you can see that it's red. I mean, I'm not sure if it's active or not. but I'm not a big fan of how they've done this. This was unconnected, so let's plug it back in and see if we can get a little bit of a spark out of it. So that means that the bulb was probably not broken, and this becomes a bit of a vanity project rather than a necessity, but that's okay. I'm just going to be using this indicator as a test light now that we know that it works. Yeah, she's working. Alright guys, so what you need to do next after you is just gauge what drill bit you're going to use. I actually drew a couple of size holes here because I wasn't completely confident in the drill bit that I needed being like too wide and then not leaving me enough like metal left to grip on with the indicator tube. So I was very careful. Obviously you don't want to lean too far to the side on one of these, so I just used the old holes. Obviously you can drill new holes, but I was just doing it the laziest way. Is usually the best way. So we go through here, and now that we've drilled the hole and attached it, we just got to start wiring into it. So I just spliced into the existing unit. I did try and stretch across to use those nice little connectors it came with, because it looks like they were the same type. But unfortunately it was twist and tape time, or should I say twist, solder and heat shrink time. So yeah, once you've got that securely tied up, you will find on the cheap little indicator that you get from eBay, most likely it won't be copper. It'll kind of be like a silver that they usually use in cheaper appliances. Like it's almost, it doesn't quite want to twist as nicely as the copper does. So you've really got to make sure that you use some sort of, either just like a connector, or obviously then just use your, just make sure to use solder to make sure it's properly attached. I'm also going to use heat shrink today, but a couple of layers of electrical tape is just fine, but as long as it has to be soldered first. So a little shortcut that I learned when I was working as an electrician is that you don't actually have to use a heat gun or a soldering iron in this sort of situation. Just twisting the solder around the copper, around the insulating materials, and then just heating it up with whatever you have on hand. I like to use a jet lighter, but today I only had my barbecue lighter today. So I just use my barbecue lighter. You obviously got to make sure it gets nice and hot so it melts to create that weld. And same goes for the heat shrink. It'll just shrink down the lighter, and will save you a lot of money if you don't need those sort of tools all the time. Like if you just need to do this as a one-off, and you're looking to buy a heat gun and a soldering iron, even on the cheaper side, you're looking at about $40 for the pair. Whereas this sort of barbecue lighter, you're looking at about $4. So I think that you kind of make do with what you have at the time. It is a bit weird that I used to work as an electrician and don't have a heat gun. I do have a soldering iron, but I just didn't want to get out the extension cord. And also I find that this is more effective and creates better welds with the lighter. Just try not to drop your bloody $200 Fluke multimeter when you're working on stuff. Yeah, again in a second you'll see how effective the lighter is at melting down the heat shrink. It's not a matter of if, but it does work every time, at least every time that I've done it, and it gets nice and tight again, which kind of helps bond your weld together a little bit better as well. So all I've done there is I've twisted the conductive material together, soldered it, and then bent it forward to create a straight line, and I just go through a test run before sealing up the other one as well. So now you're just closing off the other half of that circuit, just to make sure. I actually stuffed this one up a bit and had to use electrical tape. So again, I was saying the electrical tape does work just as well. And then just chucked a zip tie over the whole lot just to make sure it wasn't coming undone anytime soon, because that's the last thing I want when I'm going 55 k's an hour or 60 or whatever. And this time I just go straight to the Big Daddy drill bit. I was a little bit more careful on the other side, but now that I know exactly what size sort of it takes, I just jumped straight to that one, as the hole was fairly large anyway, so I didn't risk snapping the drill bit. I don't think I risked bending that bar too much that it mounts onto, although it is quite thin. So all we're doing here is we feed the actual indicator through that hole that you've just made. You tighten up the knot at the bottom. I just used an adjustable to tighten all this up. At the end, that was more than enough tension. It's not actually, doesn't feel like great metal, what these indicators are made out of, which is fine for what you're paying. Like, I'm not actually complaining. For $11 delivered to my door, yeah, they work, and that's all I was expecting, and they're bright. The main thing is they're bright. They actually do look better than the stock ones, I would say, especially since they're new. And super shiny, which is always a plus. Now, just like me when I was learning how to shave, it's time to get cutty again. I actually suggest, if you have this exact indicator, which comes with this weird little, it looks like heat shrink, but it's not. I tried melting it onto it. It's not heat shrink at all. That you feed that little black stuff it comes with into the light at the very beginning of the job. It just makes things a lot easier. I ended up having to sort of like, you're kind of like bending over and trying to force it through, but to no avail for the most part. Again, so you just quickly strip the wires. All you got to do is to cut through the insulation, but not to the conductive material. Definitely not copper, or any copper that I've seen. And then you twist it together, and then just line your solder through there. So I just pre-cut it before I put the soldering reel on, and that just sort of so this just melts through again. Nice and easy, nice and easy. Again, like I always say, the easiest way is probably the best way. I think there's a famous quote from Bill Gates who said he'd rather put a lazy person onto a job because they'll find the easiest way of doing it than put a hard worker onto a job. Alright, so we're almost home free here. So just going over the second wire now, closing off the circuit. Again, you cut back that insulation, you twist it together, a bit of solder. I do like the fact that on this moped you've got quite a bit of room to stuff the wires back in there. Because obviously I made sure to kind of give myself as much slack in the wiring as possible. And that's just because I want to have as much room for error as possible. I don't want things to be tight and sort of, yeah, if the bike knocks around, I don't want it to knock any connections loose. It was a shame that the indicators didn't come with just a bit longer wire, because then I wouldn't have had to do any of this, but that's fine. So you just melt that in. Mind you, I could have just checked it properly for faults before I ordered parts off eBay. And I'm just moving the heat shrink over there now. And again, just melt that on top. And I think that the viewers who are searching this video up particularly would be happy to do this with the cheapest tools possible, considering you're using eBay indicators on your bike. Yeah, so like a politician, 5 minutes after knockoff time, she's done and dusted. Sorry about all the weird shots on my back there. Should probably keep that in mind in future videos. And yeah, like I said, I just try to feed through, make it tidy, make it nice, and then it's just a case of closing her off. So you've got two Phillips head screws at the back, 3 bolts. It's a bit of a weird setup. I'm not quite sure why they didn't make it all Phillips head screws, but I guess it might have been too easy to vandalize. Especially in, I imagine these would be huge in sort of like more developing countries. And let's say places like India and stuff like that, that are very developed, but have even larger disparaging wealth between one set part of the country and the next. So yeah, I just used an adjustable wrench for the whole thing to be tightened up. I felt like that sort of sufficed, especially because I want to be able to get into it if I need to again, but as long as it's still watertight, that's fine by me. I'm thinking of chucking a little milk crate on here. Anyway guys, if you like this video, please like and subscribe. Hope it helped you out and it wasn't just me waffling on too long.